really great to be here. So I'm going to talk to you about how to create an image library. So I'm just going to dive into this because, you know, if you're not here live, you can easily catch up on replay, and the video is going to go into the Brand Success Club, so you'll be able to go and check out anytime. So I've got quite a lot of notes in front of me, different things I want to talk about, but this is going to be quite quick videos. It'll almost be like an introductory video to this section, because but I'm going to need to create some additional videos. I've already started creating some additional videos to go with this one. So when you're being consistent, it really helps to have this image library that you have created to have in front of you. And that doesn't mean that you have to start with like 100 different images that you're going to use to help talk about your brand. That would be, I mean, hopefully you will end up with that many or more over time. And there'll certainly be ones that you probably weed out as well as part of the process as you go on through creating your brand. But certainly at the beginning, if you maybe aim for having like 10, then that would be great. And when I'm talking about images, I am talking about photography, which is what you'll probably be thinking of, and that's really important, and it's probably going to be the main focus of this live. It definitely is going to be the focus of this live, but we're also going to be talking about things like patterns, illustrations, your icons and symbols, all those different things that you need for the different aspects of your brand. You want to pull those together. I want to say 10 things. I mean, like, have 10 photographs, have 10 icons, have 10 illustrations. Now, obviously, if you've been through the brand elements part of the brand elements topic, then you will know that you don't need to have all of those different things. But if you are going to have patterns, actually, even if you have patterns, to be absolutely honest, one is enough. But when it comes down to things like images and illustrations and icons, if you have about 10 of each, that's a good starting point. Don't worry if it's slightly less, because even 5 is better than nothing, you know, just to get you going. And as I'm going to cover in the Canva tutorial, which will go into this, you can make a lot from one image and still have them look different but consistent. So the main thing I want to focus on straight away is photographs, because photographs are very emotive. There's that whole phrase of, you know, a picture speaks 1,000 words and all that kind of thing, and people really connect with photographs. So even if you've got your patterns and your icons, illustrations and things, absolutely use them, but maybe use them in conjunction with photographs, maybe stick them on the top, or maybe use them so that you have an image with a photograph and then you have one with an icon, and so that you're using a good mix of the two different things, because otherwise what you create is going to look very flat. So you want to make sure that you use both different types, or all different types of imagery, to really help get your message across, as well as the fact that different kinds of things are going to speak to different people. Some people are not going to care if you make this little scrappy comic illustration that's really fun, that some people absolutely love, but they might really connect to a photograph. So the important thing to think about is the kind of style that you want your photograph to have. And obviously we've spoken about style guides before, and I am not a photographer, so this is, well, I think, you know, to be fair, I work with a lot of photographs, so I can easily say these are the kind of things that you need to think about. Going and creating them is a different matter, and we're going to talk about that at the end. So you're going to need to collect some photographs first off. So we'll talk about photographs. And you're going to need probably, I mean, obviously it depends on your business and it depends on what it is that you do. And, you know, if you're a product business, you might not need things like photographs of yourself, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute. You might just need product photography, but you might also need product photography and lifestyle photography, so that you'll end up having, you know, your product in the wild and your product in a white background, so that you can stick it on your website and people can see what they're going to buy. So it's different kinds of images. So you need to have a think about the kinds of images that you need, and then work out how you're going to make sure that everything that you put together looks consistent. Because if you've worked that out, if you know how you want everything to look, then you're going to be able to make it happen, which is really important. So I've written some things down over here. Things that you might want to think about. These are just ideas that you can sort of throw out there and juggle around with yourself. When you're thinking about your photographs, do you want them to be in black and white? Do you want them to be in colour? Do you want them to be in sepia? Do you want them to have a colour overlay over the top, where everything is like a shade of blue or something like that? Do you want your images to be really saturated? So do you want them to be like bright in your face, or do you want them to be really muted? So it's, you know, or somewhere in between, you know, so how does that look for your business? Do you want to have loads of white space? because my business is called White Acres, I decided quite early on that I was going to have quite a lot of white space around my photographs. And I still do that, but I think things have changed a little bit for me as well over time. But certainly for a long time, and it's definitely still now as well, I think it's really important to have white space because it allows things that you're photographing to really stand out. It makes things not look so cluttered. So that matters to me. So I guess for me, my photographs tend to have a fair bit of white space around them, but not all the time. You know, so is white space important to you? Or do you want to photograph something and I've got a bit of a hair. So you've got, that's not white, this side's white. So you've got your this is your photograph and it's got loads of white space. Do you want bag of coffee? Do you want your thing that you're photographing to be just in the corner? So you've got all of the white space like all around it. So think about, that's about composition. Think about how you're going to lay out those photographs. How do they need to work? Do you need to have space always on one side so that there can be some space for words? Obviously, that side would work better if this was a photograph. Having space for words so that you can overlay text here or images or whatever it is that you want to do, or maybe even a photograph inside a photograph because it's like relates to whatever it is you're talking about. What else to put down? Certain colours. You know, you're looking at your brand style guide and you're looking at your colours. And do you want to make sure that you always have your colours in your photographs? Now, I would say that that is not essential, but I would also say that if you've got those brand colours, then try and use them if you can. Not necessarily in every photograph. I mean, you don't always want to overdo it. I suppose it depends on your business and your business name and how much you, like if your business name is a colour, then maybe you want to make sure that every single one of your photographs has a colour in. For example, there is a business called Blue Octo. She's a web designer, and all of the photographs she puts out, they have the colour blue in them. Sometimes I don't quite know how they're related to the two websites, but maybe that's because I've not given this any thought and I've just thought of her right now. And there probably is a reason why she does that. Excuse me. In fact, I'm sure there is because she's not daft. So yeah, so how do you want to use your colour scheme? And do you want to go and like get things in that colour and interject them into what you're doing? So actually the other day I was in Wilkinson's and they had some pins they were purple and blue and like a turquoisey colour that isn't relevant. But the purple and blue, I was like, oh, there's pins. I think I got paper clips as well. I'm not sure because I haven't used them yet. But they were in my similar to, not exactly perfect, because sometimes it's quite hard to find things and you're exactly perfect brand colour. They were similar to my brand colours. And I was like, oh, well, next time I do flat lay photography, they would be really fantastic props. So again, if you're thinking about creating your own images, then you might want to get some props. So you want to go and get some stuff that's in your brand colours, or something that's related to your business. So I've got this this wonderful ink jar, old ink jar, which I love to have. You know, I haven't used it very much, but I do occasionally stick it in photographs or in the background because it's just beautiful. I mean, how could you not like that? Isn't that just gorgeous? I love ink jars. In fact, I have kept all of my ink jars. Bit of a bad thing, isn't it? Collecting random empty ink jars. And mine aren't as clean as this. Anyway, as an aside. So yeah, so you want to think about colours, you want to think about props, you want to think about composition, you want to think about how you want the colour to look, you want to think about the depth of field as well. So do you want to be like really in focus in the foreground if it's a selfie, or do you want your thing to be in focus in the foreground and then the whole background to be like a bit blurry, or do you want it to just all look the same, like this all looks the same because I'm just using my webcam? How do you want that to look? How do you want that to pan out? So do you want something to really show up at the front? Yeah, I've already talked about composition, so really organised there. So this is about thinking about having a specific look and feel for your business. And one of the tips I can give you here is you've been through working out your values and your personality. So have a look at those keywords and think, how can I use those words to inspire my photography? And not just your keywords as well, what you actually do. So for example, Phil teaches cycling lessons. So maybe you don't want your images to be still. Maybe you want them all to have some action in them or some blur in them or some movement in them so that, you know, it shows that you get people moving. Not saying that you have to do that, but it might be something you want to think about. You might want your images to be really uncluttered, really clean and perfect and just not messy. You might want your images to be like really realistic and real life. So, you know, cereal with piles of milk around it all over the table or whatever. You know, or you might want them to be really tidy. You might want, so you might, yeah, it's like that real life sort of image. That's actually quite hard to find in stock photography. I think if you're getting the photograph taken yourself, obviously then you can talk to your photographer about whatever it is that you want. These are photographs of people in, by the way. But when it comes to finding stock photography that looks realistic, which is something I have to do quite often, it's hard. It's really hard, because a lot of places you go and you think, right, I want a photograph of a family having breakfast, right? And and that family is going to be sitting around the table and they'll be having a chat. But in every photograph, someone will be going, and then I looking at the camera, and you're like, I don't want that, because that doesn't look very real. It doesn't look like a window into somebody's life. So think about how you want your photographs to look. Do you want them to look real lifestyle, or do you want them to look staged? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. You can do whatever you need to do. And then the last thing I wrote down here was about detail. How much detail do you want to go into? Do you want to be like really close up, like macro images of different things, or do you want to be like further away? Do you want to show, like, say you have a product, do you want to show like the zip on the bag or something? Total aside, I was walking my daughter home from school yesterday, and there was a girl in front of us with a bag with a zip on, and the zip was like all different colours. It was amazing. Anyway, so how much detail do you want to include in your photographs? Do you want to have things that are like really simple and streamlined, or do you want to have things that are a bit more complicated? So sort of think about that. And I'm going to drop some photography style guides that you can just find them on the internet. You can Google photography style guide if you're really efficient and you get it before me. But there are some photography style guides available that you can just find. And I'm going to put a few links in the group so that you can all have a look at them to give you more of an idea of the kinds of things you can think about when you're thinking about photography. So I started with photography because I think that's the easiest one to get a handle on what things are going to look like. But you need to include the same thinking in your illustrations and your icons and your patterns. How can you get your values and personality into them? Is there a certain way you want them to look? Because if you think about how many different types of illustration there are, well, I've got two examples behind me. Give me a second. 3 examples. Right, so I've got 3 examples of illustration here. These are all different, okay? They're all lovely, which is why they're on my notice board, but they're all different. And I'll just try and get them a bit nearer for you. So you can see that they're really, really different. You wouldn't have them all together and think that they were going to make some kind of some image for your business. They're all different. This one's beautiful. That one was made especially for me. It's beautiful. And then this one is by that one's by Amani Summer. If you want to go and look for her, she's Summer Shines on Instagram. This is who is this? Tony Ross with a little princess. You might well recognise that little princess. And this is by Gail Armstrong of Start with a Doodle. Beautiful illustrations of actually inspired by real people. So these are awesome. Absolutely awesome, but they're very different. You wouldn't use all 3 of them as different styles that you're going to have in your business. You would have like one style that you would use all the time. In fact, if you go and look at Summer Shines or Start with a Doodle, obviously they do their own illustrations. You'll see how well they work together as styles on their websites and their Facebook and their Instagram, whatever. So have a think about the illustration styles that you're going to use, or the icon styles. Exactly the same sort of thing. You know, you don't want to have an icon that, oh, I've got a great example of this. Hang on. Dun, dun, dun. I have. Here we go. Right, so you don't want to have an icon that doesn't match another kind of icon. Right, so this is a welcome guide for a well-known business, which I don't want to tell you who it was. Let's see that. Right, and in here, see if I can do this. I'll cover up who it is. It's going to be really difficult. Okay. Well, to be honest, I can tell you who it is, but I think that that icon use is just not that great. But so say here, you've got this girl here, and there's a lot of similarity between these icons. I wouldn't say they were identical. I can see how they can work together, so that page is okay. But then on the next page, they've got this lovely swirly line drawn thing, which actually goes all the way through this brochure with these different styles of sushi sort of one-line drawings that go through each page. Let me find, there is actually a page with loads of icons on. Yeah, and then here on this page we've got like a much more sort of hand-drawn style icon there, and I don't feel that that matches the ones at the beginning. So it's just not the same all the way through. It's not a consistent style, and whilst clearly you can get away with it, do you want to, or do you want to have things that really match and really work together and look really fabulous when you stick them all on the same page? And then they've got these additional icons, and obviously icons and illustrations are different things. These ones work together quite well, but they do look a little disjointed at the same time, and I feel I could have done a better job of making them all match together. So have a little think about how they're all going to work together. And then what's the next thing I was going to talk about? Yeah, so it's very much about choosing how your images are going to look and then trying to make sure that you stick with them. And I'm going to talk about in one of the videos that I'm going to record for you, it's going to be talking about choosing stock images, and it'll be photography and illustration and patterns. So you can see how the variables work and see what could work together. And you need to look at things side by side and think that works and that doesn't. And this one works over here, but I'm going to have to get rid of that idea. So it's about sort of almost pulling a mood board together like we've done. You can go and do the mood board topic again with all of these illustrations and pull them together to, not illustrations, but different image styles, pull them together and see if they work together. Because the other thing is your illustrations and your icons and your photography should all work together too. So it's about trying to find a way to mesh them together. And if you just look at them side by side, then you should be able to see where things just don't quite work. Maybe the line is really solid and it's like the same thickness all the way around, but then you might have another icon and you think they look quite good together, but then you get them side by side and you realise that actually that one is much more hand-drawn in style and the line is a bit sort of in its different widths all the way around the side, and it just doesn't work, you know? Or you might find, you know, that you need to, that they look great together, but the colours aren't right, and you just need to tweak the colours and then everything will look wonderful. So it's about spending time looking at all those different images and working that bit out. So the next thing I was going to talk about was selfies. So I have done something on selfies for you. I am fairly confident on this. So I made this really quick, partly because I've got the school run and partly because I think I've already covered it. But taking selfies is a bit of a challenge sometimes. Let me just get my photography app up. Right, stay on my phone. So when I take selfies, I take it against the wall. It's actually just over there. So that's not very good because of where we are. So obviously you have to stick it on the version where you can see yourself, which is all very scary. And then when you're taking the photos, you don't look at the screen. You look at that bit there. Excuse the cracked screen protector. I have a new one to put on. Yeah, so if you look at that bit there, that little hole there, where that's where you're going to look. That's where the eye of your person who's looking at your photograph is, right? So that's really important. And just take photographs. Now you can start off taking your photographs like right in front of you. I'm trying to do this so you can see what I'm doing, but you won't look right. So maybe I should turn around. Can you see that? Yeah. So you won't necessarily, oh God, you can see it sitting on my desk. It might not look right unless you hold it up a little bit. That gets rid of any sort of double chin issues that you might have a problem with. You can obviously do it this way around as well. And just take loads and loads of photographs. I'm not pressing any buttons right now. Just take as many photographs as you can. And then, because I think certainly to start off with when you do this, you need to take quite a lot. And I used to take like 80 photographs and use 3 of them. But the more practice you get, the easier it becomes. So yeah, so what they say is, excuse me, these are really quick tips. Is to sort of hold it up so that it's like a little bit higher than your eyes, because that's going to be a more flattering angle for your photographs. You obviously want to make sure that you are not in a situation where the light isn't very good. So right now I've got a window over here, so I'm really bright on this side, and on this side I don't have a window. I don't know if I have a lamp. But time of day is quite important too. So I can't turn it around. It's not cooperating. Okay, there we are. So yeah, you'll see that the fake light isn't a very good way to do things either, but if you can sort of bounce it away from you, then you can end up, the light's a bit more matched up now. It certainly isn't perfect. This is the side where the fake light is, and this is where the real light is, and you can tell the difference. Now it pointed at me, but then it starts to shine on your glasses. So the best thing to do, I find, is to take the photographs in the morning, like not obviously like 6 a.m. when it's really dark, but when the sun is out there and it's looking nice. And then if it's a bit dull, you know that you've got the rest of the day to get a nice spot of sunshine. Outdoors is obviously good because natural light is more flattering, but try and sort of be near the window, but don't be so near it that there's too much glare, so take a few steps back. So I think rather than me continue to go on trying to do a selfie tutorial, which is definitely not within my skill set, well, it is, I could do them all the time, but I think there is actually a video in, is it Brand for Christmas? I'm not sure where it is, but I will put the link in this section on the website by Rachel McClumpher, where she talks about doing selfies, and she actually does a video on it. So that would be the best way to go and learn about how to take selfies. And if you have any questions, do come back and ask. But then the thing you need to do is go into your settings on your phone. I don't know what kind of phone you have. I have an iPhone. I can't advise on anything for anybody else. But on an iPhone, you can go in and they have these amazing editing things that you can do. Just grab a photograph so that I can tell you what they are. Okay, here's a photograph of my daughter dressed as Harry Potter. Or Hermione, she must be Hermione. So anyway, in iPhoto, in the photo section on your phone, on an iPhone, it's split into light colour and black and white, but you can break each of those sections down. So I don't know if you can see that. So you can also divide it up into brilliance, exposure, highlight, shadows, brightness, contrast, and black point. And each of those things you can move the slider up and down to change the image. So you need to try and find out like which way does that look best. And I find when I take photographs, especially if I do it in decent lighting, I don't have to change it a lot to make it look all right. I just have to change it a little bit. This is not a particularly excellent example of a photograph. So you'll just find that you can go in and you can just tweak it like up a little bit here and down a little bit there. And I think you can take note of what you've done and you can get used to it, and you just end up doing it naturally in the end because you'll just work out how it works. But it means that you know that your images are going to have a consistent sort of look, feel and style to them, which is what you're aiming to do. So it's about just spending some time working out how those different settings work. And obviously you don't have to use your phone. You could upload your photograph to wherever you feel comfortable to do some photo editing. There are tons of options available. I tend to just use my iPhone because it's where I've taken my photographs. They're on there anyway, and it's really, really easy. So you can just go in and move them around, and you just have a play until the photographs look the way you want, and then take note of what you've done and try and replicate it. And you will need to tweak it for different photographs because the what's the word? The variables will be different. That sounds very scientific, doesn't it? But you're not going to be taking photographs in exactly the same light every time you take a photograph. You'll do a selfie one day and it might be raining outside. You might do it another day and it will be like bright white snow, so the light will be amazing. So it will alter a bit, but it'll give you more of an idea of how you can make those photographs look so that you know the conditions that you can take them in. So I wouldn't ever take a photograph in really rubbish darkness. Rubbish darkness, that sounds rubbish, doesn't it? in dull conditions, because it just isn't really going to work. I know even if I tweak it, it's not going to be fantastic, and you need to sort of work out where your limits are with the photo editing, but also just in how you can take the best photographs possible so you can edit them as little as possible. But it also means you can go and look at the different styles of photographs that other people do, and I would definitely recommend that you do that. I think if you go and look at some photographers, see what their photographs look like on Instagram and on Facebook and Pinterest, and see how all of their photographs of all these different things and different people in different situations, how they work together, then you can maybe have a think about how you can make yours look not like theirs, but sort of how you can get the similarities in your images. So how much saturation you want and how exactly you want to tweak it so that you've got it nailed. And Instagram is also really good for editing photographs, so you can go and play in there too. But obviously if you do it in Instagram, you would need to then maybe download it to use in other places. You need to have good quality ones to print. So which was the other thing I was going to talk about. This is very much about taking photographs, the selfie thing. But when it comes to photographs that are not selfies that you've taken yourself, or photographs that are just like out and about on a daily basis, which you're probably going to do, because you'll be putting photographs of, oh, I've been here and I've done that, and you're not going to have necessarily some fantastic photographer with you to take all the photographs of your life. But those photographs that you can get a professional photographer to do, you know, this can be really helpful for them to have these ideas of what you think you want your photographs to look like, so that they've got something to work with to make sure that they all look similar. But also those ones are the ones that if you're going to get something printed that you're going to use, because they're going to be so much better quality, and that is really important. And when it comes to finding a photographer, I think clearly you want one that does a really good job. I think that is pretty obvious. You want one that's really good at what you want photographs of. So for photographers specialize in different things. They might be really good at branded photo shoots of people. They might be really good at flat lays. They might be really good at taking photographs of events, or really good at taking photographs of food, or an absolutely amazing headshot photographer. So go find the photographer that will fit the bill, and then make sure that you actually like them and can have a conversation with them, so that you're not going to sort of get all these images back and be like, they're all right. I mean, they're obviously fantastic, but they're not quite what I wanted. So make sure that you've got a bit of rapport with that photographer. I think that'll be my top tip on that one. Yeah, and create these ideas of how you want your photographs to look. So there will be some more videos. There'll be one about Canva, where I will show you how you can take one photograph and you can make quite a lot of images with it. I don't know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 ideas written down there, but I know there's going to be more than that. So we're going to say 10 plus different things that you could do with one image, but to create different images. There's going to be a video about looking for stock imagery, which is going to be photography, patterns, illustrations, icons, all of that, and how you can put them together and work out how you want them, how they're going to work together, and make sure that they do. And there'll be another video showing examples of people who clearly have an image library and use it really, really well. Hi Moira, I'm actually just coming to the end, so that sucks. But you can go back and watch a replay later. So yeah, so that is it, and we'll cover those other things in those other videos, which will be in the Brand Success Club on the website next week, probably, unless I'm really efficient over the weekend. And if you have any questions about creating an image library at any point, and you'll come into the group and ask them, and we'll get this sorted out, because it's just really useful to have, and then you know that you are sorted. So Moira, you are already sorted. You've got loads of images, some that I've created for you, but you've also got those beautiful photographs. So it's about using all those different things together and creating something wonderful. Smashing. Right, I am going to go. I have a school run to do anyway, so I need to leave. So yeah, let me know if that was helpful, and I'll see you soon.